Emily had always been the epitome of grace and dedication, both at home and at work. Married to Jacob for 8 years, she often reflected on how their lives had shifted from passionate beginnings to routine coexistence. Jacob, an accountant, worked long hours to provide for their family, while Emily climbed the corporate ladder in her marketing job. Her boss, Daniel, was charming, confident, and exuded authority. He had a way of making everyone feel seen and valued, but with Emily, there was an undeniable spark. It started innocently, a compliment here, a lingering gaze there. Emily told herself it was nothing. One late evening at work, as Emily struggled with a tight deadline, Daniel stopped by her office. His presence was both comforting and electrifying. "Need help?" he asked with a smile that sent a shiver down her spine. Together, they worked through the night, and by the end, their laughter filled the room. When Daniel brushed a stray hair from her face, the moment lingered longer than it should have. That night, Emily went home with a whirlwind of emotions. She convinced herself it was harmless, but the meetings, coffee breaks, and business trips with Daniel became more frequent. Each interaction carried an undercurrent of tension, and one fateful evening, it boiled over. During an overnight work retreat, Emily and Daniel found themselves alone after a dinner meeting. The conversation turned personal. Daniel confided about his failed marriage, and Emily admitted how distant she felt in hers. Words turned into soft touches, and before they knew it, they had crossed the line. The affair spiraled into a secret world of stolen moments and hidden rendezvous. Emily became adept at crafting lies to Jacob, late meetings, extra projects, and networking events that never happened. She justified it as a way to reclaim the excitement she missed in her marriage. But guilt has a way of gnawing at the soul. Jacob, though busy, wasn't blind. He noticed the subtle changes, the way Emily smiled at her phone, the sudden effort in her appearance, and the distance between them. One day, he found an incriminating text on her phone, a message from Daniel that left no room for doubt. When confronted, Emily broke down. She confessed to the affair, her tears mixing with Jacob's as he demanded to know why. Her answer was a tangled web of reasons: loneliness, the thrill of something new, and the lack of attention she felt at home. Jacob's world shattered. The trust they had built over years was gone, replaced by betrayal and anger. Emily's affair not only cost her marriage, but also her job when the workplace rumor mill caught wind of her indiscretions. Emily now reflects on her choices, living with the consequences of her actions. She often wonders if she could have addressed her feelings differently, if she had talked to Jacob instead of seeking solace in someone else. The story is a stark reminder of how fragile relationships can be and the devastating impact of secrets and betrayal. After Jacob discovered Emily's affair, the aftermath was nothing short of devastating. He couldn't bear to look at her without seeing Daniel's shadow looming over their memories. The once warm and inviting home turned cold, filled with tension and silence. Every room reminded him of their happier times, now tainted by betrayal. Emily tried to repair the damage. She attended counseling sessions and wrote letters to Jacob, pouring out her regret and love for him. She explained how she had felt invisible in their marriage, but deep down, she knew no justification could undo the pain she caused. Jacob, however, struggled to reconcile his emotions. Part of him wanted to forgive her for the sake of their shared history, but another part screamed at him to leave, to never look back. He confided in his best friend, who advised him to take time before making any decisions. Meanwhile, word of the affair spread through Emily's workplace. Colleagues whispered in hallways, and Daniel's reputation took a hit as well. Their relationship, once thrilling and clandestine, became a source of shame and regret. Daniel distanced himself from Emily, choosing to salvage his career over their illicit connection. Emily was left alone to face the consequences. She resigned from her position, unable to handle the scrutiny and judgment. With her career in shambles and her marriage hanging by a thread, she moved back to her parents' house temporarily, hoping the space would give Jacob time to heal. Jacob, on the other hand, began therapy to process his feelings. The sessions forced him to confront not only Emily's betrayal, but also his own role in the disconnection between them. He realized that while he hadn't driven her to infidelity, their lack of communication had created a void she sought to fill elsewhere. Months passed, and Jacob invited Emily to meet for coffee. It was the first time they had spoken without anger since the revelation. Emily looked visibly different, tired but humbled. She apologized again, not seeking forgiveness, but hoping to show Jacob she was working on herself. Their conversation was raw and honest. Jacob admitted he still loved her, but didn't know if he could ever trust her again. Emily shared her ongoing struggle with guilt and her determination to change, whether or not Jacob chose to stay in her life. In the months that followed, they maintained sporadic contact. Jacob focused on rebuilding his own life, finding solace in hobbies and friends. Emily, too, worked on her personal growth, seeking therapy and taking up volunteering to rediscover her sense of purpose. Eventually, Jacob made a decision. He told Emily he wasn't ready to rebuild their marriage, but appreciated her efforts to make amends. They agreed to part ways amicably, with no bitterness, only the shared acknowledgement of a love that couldn't withstand the weight of betrayal. Emily's story became a cautionary tale in her own mind, a reminder of how fleeting desires can destroy something built over years. For Jacob, it was a painful chapter that taught him the importance of communication and self-awareness in relationships. Both moved forward, forever changed by the experience, but determined to find peace and, perhaps, a second chance at happiness in their separate lives. As Emily and Jacob moved forward on their separate paths, the echoes of their shared past remained. They had chosen to close the chapter on their marriage, but life had a way of reminding them of the bond they once shared. Emily threw herself into self-improvement, using the pain of her mistakes as motivation. She started attending support groups for those who had faced infidelity, both as the betrayed and the betrayer. It was in those circles that Emily began to understand the deeper emotional wounds that led her down the path she had taken. She met others who shared similar stories, and through their shared experiences, she learned to forgive herself. Meanwhile, Jacob slowly pieced his life back together. He immersed himself in his work, but this time with balance. He began spending more time with friends and even reconnected with his younger sister, who had always been his confidant. Therapy helped him confront the anger he harbored, not just at Emily but at himself for ignoring the cracks in their marriage. Fate, however, had a way of crossing their paths again. Nearly 2 years after their separation, they ran into each other at a mutual friend's birthday party. The initial encounter was awkward, filled with polite small talk and stolen glances. But as the evening progressed, they found themselves sitting together, reminiscing about old times. Emily looked different. There was a quiet strength about her, a humility that Jacob hadn't seen before. Jacob, too, seemed more at peace, his laughter coming easily. They spoke candidly about their lives since the divorce. Emily shared how she had taken up painting as a form of therapy, and Jacob mentioned he had started hiking, finding solace in nature. The conversation shifted to their past, and for the first time, they talked without defensiveness or blame. Emily apologized again, and this time, Jacob told her he had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for his own. Holding on to anger was only hurting me, he admitted. As the night wore on, they realized they had both grown in ways they never could have if they'd stayed together in the state they were in. They parted ways that evening with a sense of closure they hadn't felt before. Over the following months, they kept in touch sporadically, exchanging updates and even meeting for coffee occasionally. While the romantic spark had long since faded, a new kind of relationship began to form, a friendship built on mutual respect and understanding. Jacob eventually started dating again, and Emily, too, found herself opening up to the idea of love. They cheered each other on from a distance, wishing only happiness for one another. Their story didn't end with a perfect reconciliation or a rekindled romance, but it was a testament to resilience, growth, and the possibility of healing after heartbreak. Both Emily and Jacob carried the lessons of their shared history into their new lives, ensuring they wouldn't make the same mistakes again. In the end, They learned that sometimes the greatest love is letting go and allowing each other to find peace, even if it's apart. Years passed, and Emily and Jacob built lives that were fulfilling in their own ways. Emily, having embraced her love of painting, opened a small art studio where she taught classes and showcased her work. Her art became an outlet for her emotions, capturing the complexity of human relationships and the journey of self-discovery. Jacob, on the other hand, found happiness with someone new. He met Claire, a warm and compassionate woman who shared his love for hiking and the outdoors. Their relationship was built on trust, transparency, and the lessons Jacob had learned from his past. When he proposed to Claire under a canopy of stars during a camping trip, it felt like a fresh start, a chance to build something untainted by past wounds. Emily heard about Jacob's engagement through mutual friends. Although it stung initially, she found herself genuinely happy for him. She sent a heartfelt message congratulating him, and Jacob responded with gratitude, thanking her for her kind words and wishing her well in return. As for Emily, she remained single for a while, choosing to focus on her personal growth and her burgeoning art career. She found joy in mentoring young artists and discovered that the fulfillment she had been searching for in others was something she needed to cultivate within herself. One summer evening, while hosting an exhibit at her studio, Emily met someone unexpected, a quiet, kind-hearted man named Ian who admired one of her paintings. They struck up a conversation that lasted well into the night. Ian was a widower with a deep appreciation for art and a gentle understanding of life's complexities. Their connection was easy and unforced, and for the first time in years, Emily felt a spark that wasn't burdened by guilt or regret. Their relationship blossomed slowly. Emily was honest about her past, and Ian respected her vulnerability. He admired her for the way she had turned her life around, seeing her strength rather than her mistakes. With Ian, Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before, a love that was steady, supportive, and free of the chaos she had once mistaken for passion. Jacob and Emily's paths crossed one last time at a charity event several years later. By then, Jacob was happily married to Claire, and Emily was thriving in her relationship with Ian. The encounter was warm and cordial, filled with genuine smiles and lighthearted conversation. As they parted ways that evening, both Emily and Jacob felt a sense of closure and contentment. They had once been each other's whole world, and while that chapter of their lives had ended in pain, it had ultimately led them to where they were meant to be. Their story served as a reminder that even the deepest heartbreaks can pave the way for growth, healing, and new beginnings. Though their love had faded, their respect for each other endured, leaving them both better prepared to embrace the lives they had built apart. In the end, Emily and Jacob found happiness, not in rekindling what was lost, but in learning from it and moving forward with grace.